We're in. No faffing. We haven't got any time today to faff.
Oh. I have to slightly crouch because of my chaffing.
Do
you want to say
Patreon. Are we recording, Eddie?
You do a bit, don't you?
No, I don't even see Lisa's chaffing. Not that she chaffs these days.
Let's keep that in. Welcome.
Okay, it's me to go first. I'll scroll down a bit. Welcome to another episode of the Tea and Trails podcast.
Episode 56, the one where Eddie is red-faced and crouched over the microphone because my chaffing is so bad from running on the treadmill.
What we're on out of 10? 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 of pain?
I'm like hunched my shoulders to like stop it. I think I had my sports bra slightly caught at the back. Oh, and it's just rubbed like one spot. And if I pull the shoulders forward and concave my stomach, it doesn't hurt. So here we go. I just offered Gary to see the...
I know, I'm doing my best to fend her off, listeners.
He literally was like, he didn't even think about it. He was like, oh, no. I was like, many people would pay a lot. You know, there's those web pages where people put pictures of their feet and men pay to see pictures of their feet.
I have no idea what you're on about, Eddie. What is...
No? Okay. This is not a chat. Let's start the podcast. Episode 56. This week, we chat with Henriette Albon, Steve Fairburn, get some help from our coaches, Tales from the Trails. We pop over to Starva Club and we share our weekly deets. Perhaps we've overshared too much already.
Yeah, we got in hard straight away. Also, we have loads of partners who share some awesome discount codes with our Patreons. We have Precision Fuel and Hydration, Tiki Boo, Mountain Fuel, Outdoor Active, Vela Forte, Silver Sweden, Active Root, The Centurion, Run and Store, Protein Rebel, Sportshoes.com, Big Bobble Hats, X Miles, Fawnside Farm Cottages, Yugoku Projects, Red Bear Sports, Summit Crazy, and Ultra Trails 2. I've received, you got one too, Eddie. Obviously, I'm not going to pop it in the post. Maybe on our Northern Traverse Recce, you can carry it across the country. But yeah, I received an enormous, got it here. Look at the size of that.
Look, it's so big as it's bigger than your head.
It's bigger than my head. 500 grams of Run Easy Marine Collagen. Yeah, I think actually, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's going to be a new product, so you don't have to buy lots of smaller tins. So yeah, that would be good. And also, yeah, so some lovely pictures of listeners enjoying a weekend stay at Fawnside Farm Cottages too. And if you'd like to save some money and support the podcast and our partners, then please consider joining Patreon. We couldn't do this without you guys. Also, pop over to Summit Crazy if you would like to buy some Tea and Trails merch. And I did see some Tea and Trails merch at the National Running Show.
Yeah, they're dead to me. Not interested in that. Thank you to Precision Fuel and Hydration for sponsoring this week's show. So much knowledge over at precisionhydration.com. We always say it, but do pop over there. You might have entered a 100-miler, a multi-day event, Dragon's Back, road trail, marathon. You might be thinking about doing a Grand Slam. You might have just heard that you're into UTMB. I'm sure there'll be a case study over there similar to your goal race. Alice from Hong Kong, who often gives us updates, she is doing... Have you seen what she's doing? She's doing this gnarly race. Alice, I'm going to get this all wrong because I don't have Facebook open, but it's something like hardly any women have finished it. It's mega. And she was like, I need a caffeine strategy. So I just was like, she popped on our Facebook group and I was like, call up Emily. She's the guru. So if you're doing something you're not sure caffeine, it doesn't have to, like, people think, oh, it's just electrolytes. It's not. It's everything. Your whole strategy. You can talk through with their sports scientists. And we're still waiting for Jack Scott's case study on precision hydration. I'm not sure who is nutrition sponsors.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
But hopefully we'll have him on the pod in a few weeks' time. And if he can carve time into his incredibly busy schedule.
If you're listening, Jack, we would love...
Oh, I love the podcast. I'm pretty sure as he was coming in, he took his AirPods out and was like, yeah, gee, just not quite had time. He ran so fast, he didn't get through the whole episode.
He was listening to episode 7 again.
Did you see how small his pack was? I'm really intrigued as to how it looked like a sort of Salomon 10-litre vest.
Okie doke. Oh, that's interesting because you need to get a lot of kit in that pack. Yeah, I love it. You mentioned that Hong Kong race there. I really enjoy our group when people are posting, asking questions and advice. It's growing. It's a community. I absolutely love it. But we are super stoked to have Precision Fuel and Hydration as our main sponsor. And even if they weren't a sponsor, we would recommend you jump on a call with one of their sports scientists. Patrons get 15% off, and anyone can get 15% off their first order with the code all caps T T24. Super simple. T24.
Oh, Gary, you going to go first because I'm still in rehydration mode from the horrendous treadmill session. So you tell me about what you've been doing, and at the same time I can drink this small. Look, it's the same size as the Protein Rebel tin.
It's a lovely mug.
Oh, look, it's got a little bunny. It's got a hair on it, and my mum has got the same one. So we often send each other pictures of us drinking tea out.
Oh, I love stuff like that. Georgie broke his. We went to, oh my goodness me, a zoo in Essex. I can't remember the name now of it. And he bought a big mug and he broke it the other week. My mugs are memories. And when I break a mug.
Our mug cupboard is a plethora of random mugs, but I love
Lisa groans every time I go somewhere. It's like, ooh, bring a mug home. We just can't fit them in.
I love a mug. What's securing? What you been up to?
Well, Rex has got a poorly paw this morning. We started our run and we turned back because he was limping. He wasn't limping yesterday. We ran him quite late on yesterday evening, maybe 6 o'clock, 5 or 6 o'clock. No limping. There was no blood. But yeah, he limped out of the house. So I checked his paw and he's got quite a clean cut. It's not bleeding. So we're just going to give him a little break. He's not licking it. So I'm just going to let it air. If he was licking it, I think the protocol is to give it a bandage it up just to stop him doing it. I think dogs have some kind of antiseptic in their saliva. So yeah, it's not bothering him apart from he's limping, but he's not done his business this morning. Even though I'm trying to usher him out into the back garden, he just doesn't want to go. He's like, if I'm not running, I'm not going.
Well, we all feel like that, but don't we get things moving a bit? Maybe a little caffeine shot or something.
Oh, it's me. Yeah, that will get things moving. But the sessions, we'll do all the business first. 3 times 10 minutes on the treadmill, 15%. Well, I did this before we recorded last week's show. And I was absolutely rinsed. I think I was about 6 out of 10. That's been generous actually last week with my performance on the podcast. Lesson learned. I won't be doing that again. But yeah, this time of year, I think I said I was going to do all of my sessions on the treadmill. And then yes, I did my 20, although I ran to the gym. So the first 20 wasn't on the treadmill. I really enjoyed that because to hold that 20, and it's a great way for being consistent on the pace with the treadmill. And it's just something, it's really strange, like how you reverse the psychology as opposed to you speeding up or you speed the treadmill up and just hang on. It seemed a bit easier. And I watched another Netflix documentary, and it was the Jake Paul and his brother about their boxing and stuff like that. And I've got zero interest in those two influencers. But yeah, super, super entertaining. But I did miss my third quality session, but that's because I saved myself. I knew I had this marathon on Sunday. And that's why I really enjoy this. My gold star week is 3 workouts. But if I do 2, I think there's quite a few marathon plans out there that only really do 1 big quality session. So if I can get 2, I'm pretty happy with that. 2 strength sessions, but I do keep missing my core session each week. So what I'm going to do, I think I mentioned last week, I do these farmer carries on the conveyor belt. Well, if you do
Come on, Joe. What you get?
Well, what will you do? So you hold both 2 weights, a weight in each hand.
I know what farmer.
Sorry, well, some listeners might not. But if you just hold a weight in one arm, in one hand, then you bring your core into action more because you're trying to stabilize yourself. So that's what I might do to add a bit of core to that workout because I'm struggling.
Your strength work, you're working your core though anyway.
Well, yes, lots of it because it is the pushes and the pulls. So there is this added benefit just from doing some of the exercises, like you say. But yeah, I think maybe if I can just add 1 or 2 core elements.
I'll tell you a really good core one is get one of those big Swiss balls.
Yeah.
Plank on the gym with your arms, with your elbows in, and then stir it like that. Oh, you have to push your elbows in.
Yeah.
You do you can almost start and just see how long you can do, between 20 and 40 seconds. And I like to do it like a minute. So I try and do 45 seconds and then 15 seconds rest. And it doesn't and you go different ways. So I do 10 one way, 10 the other way. The first set, you're like, pretty good at this. And the third one, you're like, I can feel going into the ball. But that's a good one. I think like a little intensive core bit like that. And you can put that in between, like if you're doing like a heavy squat set,
Yes.
you can put that in between, because all it is like that intense bit of the core.
Interesting. Okay. But I do like the farmer's carry, but I think we mentioned last week, my little wrists and hands, super weak, and that last rep on the farm, I literally can't keep hold of the weight. I need to do some wrist and forearm exercises. I have to reach out, see if there's anything that our listeners could suggest. On Sunday, we did NEMAC, Northeast Marathon Club. It was a super muddy trail marathon, loads of fun, but completely pooped. And I thought I'd mention this. If you do your long run on a Sunday and you're actually really tired, and then on reflection, I'm thinking, how the hell can I run the Lakeland 100 when 26 miles has wiped me out?
20-mile run is a long way. It's a long way. I was that's my day, my 20-mile run, and then I'm on the sofa or playing.
I was absolutely spent the rest of the day, but I always think, don't beat yourself up. You know, when you are on the start line for your big goal A race, you've not done 60 odd mile earlier in that week. You've not done 2 quality sessions. You've not just been to the gym the day before lifting weights. So there's a reason why your Sunday long run might feel harder than you think it should. And yeah, cleaning the workshop, talking about feeling weak, I'm hopefully sooner than later getting out of the workshop. And so you've been spent 4 days down there getting stuff out in a skip. Oh my goodness me. Yeah, it's been. But what I realized, even though I run every day, I go to the gym, I have little to no functional strength. So yeah, just lumping stuff around and chucking it in skips. I came out and I was absolutely wrecked. Everything was aching. And my appetite, I got to about like 10 in the morning and I ate all the food for the day. I was just burning through calories. But yeah, I think we mentioned earlier to also just reflect on the National Running Show. I've not had the call, so pretty sure.
You didn't even get invited, Gary. So I'm pretty sure, as we didn't get invited, because it said all nominees will get invited. You can bring guests, you can enable to accept your award on the stage. And as we didn't even get invited, I
didn't realize that. I didn't realize. I didn't read that email. Anyway, I'm not going to dwell on it, but thank you to everyone who nominated and voted for us.
We don't need awards, Gary. We don't need awards. We're the unsung heroes of the podcast world. We're here.
Next year. The dates, 94 miles, including a dog walk or 2. And that does sound quite high. And the detail of that is, I think you mentioned yesterday, I had a heavy flex for a Monday. Well, that was about 4 runs. And yeah, still it was 12 miles. I can't argue with that. It was still 12 miles, but it was about 4 or 5 runs. I just resumed the activity later. It just, so my Strava just didn't really bore everybody with a million different activities.
It doesn't bore me. It's Finley, because you are on his notification. So it'll go ding, ding. It'll go, ding, ding. Gary's done another one.
So yeah, a typical day for me would be to run Rex, go and see my dad, go to work, then maybe run Rex in the evening. And then I think even yesterday I had a run with Lisa too. So yeah, it's quite broken up and fractured, but it does accumulate quite a lot of time on feet. 20 hours and 7,500 feet of elevation. So even though I'm not chasing elevation, I still seem to be not quite where I'd like to be if I was in the Lakeland 100 training. But yeah, pretty good. And then Saturday, wasn't too sure if I was going to share this story, but on Saturday, yeah, I don't want to share too much because it does really trigger me and maybe could trigger some of our listeners. And this story is not over for somebody, but it's super emotional. And in a nutshell, on my run on Saturday, I ran past a guy who was potentially going to commit suicide. And the happy ending for the day was at least that we walked off the bridge together. Yeah, short term, good news, but I'm sure this chap's journey is only just starting.
Can I ask you, what did you say, Gary? Do you want to share that? What you said to him?
No, because I'm not going to share exactly what I said. But, basically I just engaged in a conversation. I ran past him at first. And this is where I feel enormous guilt, because something could have happened between when I decided to turn around and go back. Thankfully, it didn't. And then I just engaged in conversation with him. I asked him, where's he from? Where does he live now? What his work is, family, stuff like that. And then I shared some stuff about myself. And it wasn't, sometimes when someone goes, oh, I did a 10K, and then someone goes, oh, well, I did a marathon. It wasn't like I wasn't trying to up him.
Oh, you didn't tell him your Strava stats.
No. But what it was, I wanted to offer him some hope that I have been in some pretty low moments in my life, but currently I'm in a good place. And I just want to offer him hope that how he's feeling now isn't just his fate. He could reach out and get himself out of the situation that he's in. He'd not reached out for any help, which was super sad. Young family, just really tragic and heartbreaking story to hear somebody struggle so much. And you do realize, you'd come face to face with like mortality, and it is pretty overwhelming. I was literally just about to call Samaritans. I was down Samaritans and the police turned up. Another person that was passing, they called the police as we were walking off the bridge. Yeah, enormous emotions. When you're in that moment and then the adrenaline goes, wow, that was probably the biggest release of adrenaline I've ever experienced in my life, because I was pretty spent. And I nearly didn't go to the gym because I just thought I can't cry in the gym for an hour, and I did keep myself together. But yeah, and it does make you realize, we're all super busy. Everybody's super busy. We think we should be doing something else. We should be doing something else somewhere else, and it was quite enormous, that sense. I thought I was going to go to the National Running Show that weekend. That was something that I was and ahhing with. And I'm not even really a big believer in fate, but in that moment in time, that was exactly where I needed to be. And I'm just pleased I was, and I'm so pleased whatever I said got him off that bridge. And yeah, hopefully he's still out there fighting. Yeah, really emotional, overwhelming. And yeah, I wasn't too sure what to talk about. I've not shared all the deets.
I'm really pleased you did, Gary. I'm really pleased you did. I thought you were amazing before, and now I think you're even more amazing.
But don't, if your spider senses start tingling, turn around, stop, have a chat. I don't think you can see anything wrong in that situation. I think just reaching out. He did mention that I was the only person that had stopped, which is quite heartbreaking, because this is a busy road. Lots of cars would have drove past. Not so many walkers, but yeah, a lot of people would have seen him there. And it was quite unusual to see someone where he was anyway, stopping. So yeah, you just can't do anything wrong. Reach out, ask a question, just give someone a minute of your time. It could make all the difference.
And I think the more time you have, a little bit more time to reflect on it as well, you'll be like, you saved somebody's life. You've changed the course of his life and his family's life. And that moment of making that decision and being there, and perhaps also by you having been in those dark places, perhaps in your life, you sort of recognized a troubled soul as well. And so whenever we why has this happened to me? This is so unfair. What is the reason behind this? Sometimes it's not for us, but it was actually for somebody else. So I think you've secured your place in heaven, Gary. I was a little unsure about it, but I'm pretty sure now.
It was quite overwhelming to, like I mentioned, I've been in some pretty low moments, but then to be on the other side of the fence, trying to talk somebody back, that was pretty wild. But like I say, please don't drive past. And again, I've heard this a few times just this week. People are taking their own life, and they're all men for some reason. I'm not too sure it was about men not communicating. Super scary. Whoa.
Breathe. Let's
go back. You ready? Yeah, yeah. How's your week been?
To go, Gary. Where's the time go? It's like madness around here. So what's been occurring? So I've been on a riddle trip, Gary. I am trying to source the problem of my knee, which actually just ran on the treadmill and it didn't hurt at all, which is good. Maybe I just have to run or do treadmill races now. Anyway, I was recommended to go to this podiatrist, osteopath doctor over in Chamonix.
Yes, I remember.
And so he's got a long waiting list. The kids have been over to see him because he mainly works with skiers. So I'm a skier. But Bryn had gone with the kids and said, you've got to go and see him because he's got all these famous people's pictures on the wall with signed things. So I booked an appointment, but there's a bit of waiting list. That sort of thing, Gary, gives me such anxiety. I'm such a loser. I worry about driving over somewhere new, even though I've been to Chamonix lots of times. I worry about the parking. I worry about how I'm going to find the place. And then I worry that my French won't be good enough and I'll just sit there in a muck sweat. All of totally
I bet your French is super good, Eddie.
Anyway. It was fine. I did give myself, honestly, and my parents, I gave myself a good 2.5 hours to get there and find the parking and find where I was. Still, when I got into Chamonix, I still couldn't find his office. But Bryn had said it's like in this building where it was like a university halls, like the carpet was like a really thin, horrible, slightly smelled of booze carpet. I was like, oh my God. Bryn hadn't told me it was up there. I'd never have found it. Anyway, I was so nervous about this, Gary. I don't know why, but I'm like sweating through my top before I went in. And I really needed a wee. I was too scared to ask him if he had a loo because it was all. And then the first thing, we walked in, he said, take your shoes off. And I thought, I know he's looking at me walking in.
I see.
But then I was like, oopie doopie. And then he asked me my date of birth. And my mind was just like trying to say 1979 in French. I was like, anyway. It was great. He was like, he videoed me on the treadmill, and then he said, get off. He's slightly strange. Everyone had said he's got a slight strange manner. He said, get off. Now close your eyes. And I was like, my anxiety. I was like, what the hell? Like, I'm going to play you a video. And I was like, anyway, he played so I could listen to my feet on the treadmill. Slap, slap, slap. And he was like, can you hear that right ankle? Because my left knee that's sore, but it's the right ankle. He said it's blocked. So we've got to release that, and then that will take the pain. So he did spend, it was so blocked.
It's like a shaman. I love it. This is brilliant.
Yeah, he totally showed me. It took him for like 40 minutes to like release everything. And normally, like when you have an appointment, like a physio or what, you chat. There was no chat. He warmed to me as the session went on, and he did a lot of work on my body. He made me some insoles. We looked at the shoes that I run, my fave North Face shoes, and he was like, these are perfect for you because there's a rocker in them. It's helping the ankle move. He put the insoles in. I had to keep running up and down the horrible stairs, the horrible carpet. It was amazing that when the ankle sat in the right position, the knee stopped hurting, the other knee.
I've always been worried about structuring shoes that.
Well, they're not like insoles, like they're very light. They're like hardly there.
Okay.
It's just a tiny bit of support. And he spent a long time, like he almost like handmade them onto my feet. So it wasn't like a one you'd get off the peg. And I've had insoles before when I used to do a lot of hockey, but I literally put them on and it just feels like my foot. I can't even feel I'm wearing them. It was really good. Anyway, I've started to wear them in. It definitely feels a lot better. It's still not quite right, but he said, because that ankle's been locked for so long, it's going to take a little time. So don't do any hard sessions this week. I thought, okay, all right. So I was proud of myself getting out of the valley, which I don't do very much. I get
Fingers crossed.
Google Map update saying where I've been in the month, and it's like Morzine. Morzine. So I'm pleased to do that. So I didn't really do any sessions, but I had a lovely ski tour. So it rained, as I know I was saying this last week, it rained. So, and then we were like, it said on the forecast, we took a bet, said on the forecast, Thursday night, it's going to turn to snow. So we all went to bed on our little WhatsApp group going, see you in the morning. We'll just message at like 6 a.m. It might be snow. 5 a.m. The snowplow wakes me up. There is so much snow, Gary. It's like knee high. Where the hell? Yes, get it. So I had a lovely first time for a long time. We managed, it's so hard to get mates together, isn't it? We did a couple of ups and downs. And the pistas came down as we were going up and they said, we're blasting. So the mountain's actually closed, but you can just go up to this plateau and then you can turn round and come back. By the time we actually got up there, because there was so much chatting, the mountain was already open. I think he thought. As I was going up this plateau, anyway, this guy stopped and went, Eddie, it's Roy. And I thought,
Oi.
I don't know. Oh my God. Roy. Oh my God. 2005 include. What happened, Roy?
Yeah.
I was like, Roy. And because he had a buff and a helmet on. And then he pulled it and he went, it's Ryan. Ryan West, winner of the Winter 200, was just snowboarding past me. I was like,
what?
Places. So I gave him a big hug. I was like, nice to see how you're doing. Oh, great. Awesome. He's out here footing. Then I felt so bad because then I was like, oh my God. So I just hugged him. Poor guy must have been like, I done almost 1,000 meters. I was really sweaty and smelly. So being like, oh my God, Eddie. Take her a shower. Anyway, that was a bit random. So yeah, just easy running, but a nice ski, lots of biking, all 3 strength sessions. God, fitting in that 3rd strength session every time I leave it till Sunday. I'm like, why do I do that? Why do I do that? And I did it this week. The weights have gone up, Gary.
Awesome.
Yesterday, I made this noise. I just couldn't. I was like, no, this is not humanly possible. Anyway, it's good. I'm feeling strong. And I just did 3 by 15 minutes uphill on the treadmill. No knee pain. Great. I felt so strong. I mean, I was sweating, hence the chaffing, but my legs I said to Bryn, do I look any different? You know, I'm really blitzing 6 weeks.
Oh, that's not a nice question to ask somebody.
Well, he's like, maybe your legs look more compact. So I was like, I don't think compact's the word you use to describe your wife. Compact.
What a question already. You don't want to speak with that question.
You know, hoping that someone soon will go, my God, Eddie.
My God.
My God, Eddie. Anyway, I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it for feeling strong, and I do feel really strong. And then weekend, kids all had their first ski races. Finley had a slalom race, which is when you go in and out of the poles.
Yeah.
A race full of jeopardy. So 1 in 5 get down the piste it's what Dave Riding does, you know, and they hit and you're literally like jump turning. You miss one pole, you know, you hit a net, whatever, and you're out. And
it's awesome to watch, though. That's a good when you watch the Olympics.
Yeah, want a core workout, you do that. Bryn often takes them because it's the only time he gets to go up the mountain then and have a little ski around. But we get live, you just get the live result on the internet. So you go to the France ski thing, and then it says your child's name is at the start. Then it says they're en course, so they're on the piste, and then it says when they finish. So you're literally just watching this thing, waiting for it to update. What I do now is I set my stopwatch so I know, like, if he's not finished in like 40 seconds, I sort of see where he normally finishes. Yeah. And I know. Anyway, it was like abandon, which means he didn't finish. The 6 people in front of him abandoned. So I was like, that's not good. So they get 2 runs. So if they don't finish 1, you don't get a race result. You have to have 2 clean. So basically, if you get quite slow, you're going to do quite well because not many people get 2 runs. Anyway, he did the other run, abandon again. I was like, oh my God.
Oh.
Bryn was like, oh. Both times his ski had popped off. So Bryn was like, do you think you should go and check with the coach that your ski is tight enough? So I went up and the coach said, Finley, I WhatsApped you to say I hadn't tightened your ski.
Oh.
So he got a real telling off. I was like, that's a bit, he's 13. Yeah. What, I mean, Finley, the 13-year-olds brushing their teeth and putting their pants in the laundry basket is a 4 times reminding job. And it's still, I was like, oh, it's not like so. So anyway, they had so many kids, I think, hadn't tightened their skis because they learned an interesting and he tightened a ski and he had a good last run. At the same time, the other 2 were doing the same ski race, which again, I couldn't see, but they did amazing. Rory did amazing. And Evie, absolute speed demon. So it was a whole club race. And Eve's, because, you know, if you got 2 brothers, you got no fear. You have got 0 fear. And I was, oh my God, this child. So last night, just managed to sneak a whole episode of Slow Horses in. And as we were watching it, I said, oh, Bryn, this is such a good find. I love this. I'm loving the story. And I said, I wonder, he found it from a podcast that he listened to. I was like, I wonder if anyone, like I recommended on the podcast, I wonder if anyone else is really enjoying it.
Yes.
We're loving the 7 head. People are loving it. As I said last week tonight, maybe we shared too much about the TV, but I feel I bought some
a new section. Oh, even the meal and tea, what we're watching on Netflix.
I had cauliflower cheese, sweet potato, green beans and peas. Oh, that is one of my faves, and a bit of hummus.
I did well yesterday. We had vegetable chili, but then Monday George does home economics. Came on with bread and butter pudding, custard. That's a good start to the week, isn't it?
Especially after the couple of days you had, you needed a bit of bread and butter.
Yeah.
So a bit more deets about the kids than my running, as always. Hey, And I carry on planning our recce, Gary. I'm coming across some hurdles, but I don't want to tell you.
I've got an idea. We need to chat about this actually, probably off air. It's a big conversation.
Okay. Let's just say what we've got 3 nights booked. One night is full of jeopardy around Keld. And so I'm still searching that, and I haven't had any luck with finding taxi people. People aren't working. They don't want the money. I'm like, just take my money.
My idea could solve this
okay,
problem.
All right. We'll chat more later. Anyway, it's all good. It's all looking good. Body's looking good. Not as ripped
looking
as
good.
Just compact.
Just raw with chaffing.
Oh, don't start.
I wonder if any of our listeners will send a question about chaffing to the coaches.
Well, I don't really have any answers because, I suffer dearly from this problem, but maybe some people have. I know that I could I could lube up more, but who has time in the winter? But it's a
super sensitive skin, Eddie.
Oh, I don't know, just old leathery.
This week's question comes from Steve Fairbairn. I've been suffering with a groin and ab pain for about 3 months now and have managed to suffer the pain to do the runs I had booked, including the Great North Run and Trail Outlaws Wooler Marathon. I finally succumbed to my male ego and went to the doctors, who referred me for an MRI scan. I've been diagnosed with osteitis pubis, essentially an inflammation of the pubic bone and surrounding muscle insertion. I've been advised to stop running altogether in order to prevent a very lengthy period of recovery. My question is, what exercises can you suggest I could still do that won't aggravate my injury, and what exercise can I do that will help maintain a good level of fitness and waistline for when I return to running again? I've heard aqua jogging is good, and I'm also looking into shockwave therapy to help treat the specific area. I'd normally be quite anxious about not being able to run, but I know if I recover properly, then I should be back to my running next year in a better position than when I started. My next major run is the Greener Miles Backyard Ultra in April. Love the podcast and Eddie's. I've edited what he actually said, but Eddie's dodgy Geordie accent. It was a swear word. It was a swear word.
Is he swearing at me?
Well, not at you.
Well, I'm going to set Dr. Rebecca on you now, Steve. Here we go.
Hi, Steve. As you say, osteitis pubis, essentially it's a condition of that pubic symphysis, which is the joint at the front of the pelvis. It's like a cartilaginous joint where the pelvic bones come together. It has not really much movement compared to other joints. And you get inflammation or sort of bone stress response in that bone, and also then you have a knock-on effect of the surrounding muscle insertions where those muscles go into that bone. The whole area is sort of unhappy. So it's an overuse injury. It's come from increase in load and the ability of those structures to tolerate that load. And then when you exceed that, you then run into something called the bone stress injury. So usually you are advised to have a period of rest initially, which is what it sounds like you've been done. And yeah, you're right. If you carry on running through this type of injury, then you can cause more damage, more serious injury, more significant length of time away from running because the joint essentially degrades, and then that can cause instability and problems within the joint itself. In terms of sort of what exercises to do, this really depends on why you had the condition in the first place. And always, I'm going to suggest in my answers that you see a physio for a complete assessment if you haven't already, because their remit is to identify the underlying factors which have predisposed you to this. So which bits of you are weaker than they should be, which bits are tighter than they should be. And therefore, the exercises are then determined based on those deficits that you have. And that can be problems with the abdominal muscles, problems with the adductor muscles of the inner thigh, which is what brings your legs back together again. An imbalance between those two generally is what sort of causes a problem. So the exercises will very much be determined by any particular deficits you've got. And generally, you go through it sequentially. So you do exercise initially, which help reduce pain and symptoms, and then you gradually progress those depending on how you then respond and recover. It's not an injury that you can continue to run through generally, but that's not to say you can't be doing things actively to treat it. So have a period of rest and then a good period of active treatment, which should be overseen by someone who is used to dealing with athletes with this condition. So a good sports physio, rehab physio, those are the sort of go-to people for this to sort of take you through that return to running. There's some things that you can do for sort of cardiovascular fitness as well, but swimming, for example, we normally recommend for quite low impact CV, but in this condition, particularly breaststroke's very sort of aggravating to this type of condition. I'm going to let Eddie come in on the aqua jogging in a minute, but at the moment, so certainly swimming you might find aggravating, but other things, low impact cycling, if that's comfortable and it's not too stressful, those sorts of things you can still do. But the mainstay of treatment is working on the strength aspects of it. Other things, your physio will look at sort of range of movement in other joints and hips, whether or not there's any particular tightness in your hip range of movement, that sort of thing. So there'll be lots of things that you can do really actively to manage this. The other thing I'll just come in on is you mentioned shockwave. Shockwave is a treatment whereby externally you have, it's like a Theragun, if you like, but it administers a particular dose of shockwaves to an area of the body. I haven't used it personally in osteitis pubis or bone stress injuries. It can be very, very painful and it has to be a specific type of shockwave. But we use it in my role a lot for things like tendons. So tendinopathies, it responds quite well. And we think mainly what it does is it desensitizes the area so it becomes less painful rather than it's some sort of magic that heals the area. Initially, when it was sort of brought out, that people were very interested in whether or not it sort of stimulated regeneration, growth, that sort of thing. But it probably doesn't work at that cellular level. It probably works by sort of desensitizing the area so then you can do more rehab. Shockwave is always an adjunct, okay? So it's always added on top of a comprehensive rehabilitation program. It's not a treatment in isolation. So if you see a physio and you're getting on top of all of that strength and conditioning work, and you're still getting pain and you really can't progress, then sometimes shockwave is added to allow you to progress. But it isn't a sort of magic bullet that's just going to take the symptoms and heal the area.
This question came in at the end of last year, end of November. Greener Miles, Backyard Ultra, it's quite a unique event. That's in April. Yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
In terms of timescale, if you have it aggressively, properly managed, so you are having regular input, then you can see some improvement and some return to running sort of after 3 months, 3 to 6 months really is the sort of timescale for this type of injury. But everyone's different and it's very difficult to give timescales because some people are extremely irritable and everything you try sort of flares the symptoms. Other people after a period of rest are really good to go and really get on well then with the strength work. But you have to go through a period of strength and conditioning, then you have to go through a period of graduated return to run, return to impact, return to sort of plyometric explosive stuff, all that sort of thing. I would say a backyard format is a difficult format to make your first race back because it's not controlled for you. You can't sort of up your pace, slow your pace down as much as you can in maybe a longer ultra. Yeah, it would be a big ask to go from where you are November when the question came into April. That's quite a short time frame, but it really depends on how you respond in those early few weeks and months. But it is a difficult format, I think, to go straight into because of that sort of really repetitive nature of it and pacing and all that sort of thing.
I would think very wisely about doing that backyard ultra with all the stopping and the starting. And as Rebecca said, if you choose an ultra for your comeback race, which allows a little bit more hiking gently, you can run at your own pace, go for a finish rather than anything. And maybe in the summertime when it's warm as well, take out all the factors that could make you want to run faster, that could in any way hamper your, change your gait. So nice dry paths. And I would really focus instead on this perhaps you're back running now, first 6 months of a strength program, lots of cross training, working out, looking at a plan of what you did before that caused this injury. You mentioned about aqua jogging. I am actually giving myself the title of Queen of Aqua Jogging because I used it to great success when I had a stress fracture in my foot in June, and I ran 100-miler in October off the back of aqua jogging. So you can get yourself really fit with aqua jogging, but a caveat, it is the most boring thing in the world ever because you are literally going up and down a pool with no change of view. But I mean, you can make it interesting by getting to know all the old ladies that go in the lane next to you and the lifeguards, and basically you watch the world go by. I would suggest getting a pair of Aftershock earphones that you can download stuff into. So I put some music on so that I could get rid of the monotony, but you can do a lot of good work in the pool. It's great, even if you're back running, to swap out some running for aqua jogging, because you have the resistance, but without the impact. And if you do it properly, you can have a really good workout, but without the knock-on of the impact. So you can go in and beast yourself aqua jogging, but you can get out and feel relatively okay because it's just not the impact. You need to choose sessions, if anybody's thinking about aqua jogging, is really short, sharp stuff. It's quite hard to get your heart rate up, but once you get your heart rate up, you can keep it up. So you want to do stuff like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, and a really short rest. It also makes it more interesting as well. It makes the time go quicker. Definitely, Steve, I would take your time coming back from this, but if you can, aqua jogging could be your friend, and you might enjoy it as much as I did.
The one thing I would say is just it is hard coming from, having an injury where you can't do what you love is super hard, and it's tough doing this. This rehab stuff. Nobody really likes it. Let's be honest. I don't tell any physios that, but it is hard. So, I would focus on the stuff you can do. Let the stuff you can't do slide for now. Just focus on what you can day by day. And, you have to keep looking forward, play the long game, which sounds like you're doing. So best of luck with it, Steve. And I hope you get back, fit as a fiddle.
Yeah, best of luck, Steve. And if you do toe the line, listen to your body, please. Listen to your body, don't, because it's like Rebecca said, it's unique. You chasing the clock. You can't just slow down. That's it. It's a DNF. So yeah, be sensible.
Hope your recovery is going well, Steve. Let us know. We love an update. And then, if your question has been read out with Brew with Coaches and you have an update for us, let us know and we can read it out. In this section. Patrons, if you have a question for the coaches, then fire it over to hello@tntrails.com.
This week we have a chat with record-breaking smoking fast Henriette Albon. I love a bit of Bob Graham chat, Eddie, and a bit of tech as well. We go a bit tech towards the end. So yeah, geeking out and Bob Graham, two of my favourite subjects. I had a blast. I hope you enjoy our chat with Henriette Albon. $17 55 minutes, record-breaking midwinter Bob Graham round. That is smoking fast, Henriette. What a treat to share some time with you today, and thanks for coming on the Tea and Trails podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to chat to you guys.
I love a bit of Bob Graham. Chat's a highlight.
I've had to caveat that it can only be a small section of this podcast.
I put a timer on so we can have to stop talking about it. We ask all of our guests, though, where are you? What's the view from your window? And have you been for a run today?
I'm in Norway, in the Romsdalen on the west coast, which is where I live, where I'm based. Out of my window at the moment, I can see lots of snow, but it's currently raining and 5 degrees, so pretty grim and cold. So I cheekily jumped on the treadmill this morning, mainly because it's really icy outside and I'm not a huge fan of running on really hard, slippery ice. So I actually did my first interval session since the Bob Graham round.
Oh, wow.
So I was dreading it.
Tell us the deal.
I was dreading it, and I'm not a very speedy runner. Hence, I did choose to do the Bob Graham round with lots of climb, but we'll get back to that. I hate flat running, and I'm really bad at it. So today, I did exactly that, because why not work at your weaknesses, during the off season? So I did a 1% treadmill. I think treadmills hate me because I always run quicker outside. So I'm going to start off by saying that. But I really had to, dial down the speed compared to what I would do if I'm in better shape. So I was actually running at 12.8 kilometers an hour, which is a record low. But, you got to start somewhere. Keeping it an honest speed. honest sort of effort level. And then, yeah, it can only get better from here.
I was only saying to Gary this morning, because I was saying I did 3 by 15 minutes uphill on the treadmill this morning. And I said, but you've got to be honest, because you've got to start that session honestly with yourself about not only your fitness, but what can you hold on for 15 minutes that isn't going to mean you're like holding on with your teeth. So, and sometimes I'm not super fit at the moment either. And sometimes the ego has to really have to be like, I'm not going to hold that pace. Let's just be totally realistic. You go on your heart rate when you do something like that?
I do, yeah. So I was hoping to at least cling on to 13 kilometers an hour, but I quickly realized that, hey, I need to go down even more. So yeah. I like to think that, when I'm in better shape, I should at least be doing that at 14 kilometers an hour. So there is a big room for improvement there, but I'm a huge fan of just sort of being honest, starting where you're at and then gradually getting better from there, because I don't want to be in shape at the moment. I don't need to be. I want to be in shape come May. Yeah, that's where we're at.
I think that's a good thing to point out. A lot of people say if they have a goal time for a race, maybe a sub 3 hour marathon, they might not be in that condition, but they will be training at those paces, and it's super tough. And then you do run the risk of injury. Do you distract yourself from the treadmill? Do you watch a Netflix documentary?
I very much do have to. I have to distract myself on the treadmill. So I had this set up where on YouTube, I was watching like a live stream of Golden Trail World Series event.
Oh,
I have that going in the background, actually on mute, because at the same time, I've got my running interval playlist. Yeah.
All the senses.
Yeah. It's not easy going. I'm not a huge fan of flat running or treadmill running. So I really do have to psych myself up for it.
Gary can watch proper things on Netflix as he's on the treadmill, which I always think means he's not working hard enough.
Not working hard enough.
I can't absorb programs. I can put a YouTube. I'll just find something someone's done UTMB 29 hours, and I'll just be like, I'll just put that on. I don't need any sound. I'll just watch you. And you're a middle-aged man.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. It's the music that I really need. And I just don't like staring into a wall. So it's nice to just have something going on in the background. So I quite like that setup, and it works for me.
It makes me feel so much better than an athlete of your caliber needs that distraction, because I always think I should be able to do this in silence. I should just be able to go to my inner zen. I'm like, I can't. It's an awful place to be.
For sure.
All hail the treadmill, though. We three of us here love and embrace the treadmill, especially over these winter months. But yeah, moving off the treadmill, what are your local running trails like? I'm going to be super jealous, Henriette. I bet you've got some awesome trails.
Well, you don't need to be jealous at the moment, because our trails won't melt out for another couple of 3-4 months. But during the sort of spring, summer, autumn, we've got loads of mountains here. We can sort of climb 1,800 meters straight out from the valley. We haven't got too many runnable trails. So when training for more runnable races, I actually end up running on the road here, because that's the closest we can get to sort of smooth, packed surfaces. So we sort of end up doing a bit of everything, but there's definitely a lot of scrambling, which is fun. I like to sort of use it as a way of challenging myself and getting out of my comfort zone a little bit. So I'll do trips with John, my husband, where we'll go together and do some scrambling. So that's sort of a fun way to mix up the daily training life here.
Yeah, I get super scared. Was it the 4 points of contact?
What were you doing? Was that Bob Brown round when you were scared of one?
Yeah, I think it was scrambling up Great Gable or something. I wasn't quite crag fast, but yeah, I wasn't too happy. And maybe it's the first time talk about Bob Graham round. Maybe your record-breaking Bob Graham round was the first time some of our listeners heard of you. Yeah, for those people who maybe that was the first time they heard of you, could you share a bit about yourself and your background as a runner?
I suppose I've always been trail running since sort of early 20s. I've done sort of sky races. I've done various races in the UK. My husband is English, and I studied in Bath myself and lived in the UK for 4 years. So yeah, I've always sort of dabbled in trail running. I also did a bit of obstacle course racing at one point. It was actually just before the pandemic that I decided to quit my job as an auditor. I worked as an auditor in a city. We managed to then move to a more remote area. Made sort of ends meet in different ways. And since then, I've just done more outdoorsy stuff, be it ski mountaineering in the winter, more trail running in the summer. And then was it like 2 and a bit years ago that I got my first sort of sponsor contract as well. So yeah, sort of just been a trail runner with some other projects on the side for the past couple of years, and just trying to make the most of life and enjoying the process.
Who's your sponsor with, Henriette? Who sponsors your running?
My main sponsor is Arc'teryx. So they've got like quite a small trail running team, but like a small, nice, close-knit family there. So yeah, that's been really fun and enjoyable in its own way. But I've definitely learned a lot in the past couple of years as sort of a sponsored trail running, because it goes from being, this is your hobby, you do it just for yourself, to suddenly being this thing that you're sort of doing for other people as well, and you got to please them in some sort of fashion. So yeah, I mean, that was quite the process for me personally to sort of dial in how I was going to manage that in my day-to-day life as an athlete, I suppose.
And last year you had a bit, was it the start of last year you had a bit of a rocky start to the year? Was it actually the end of 2022 when you'd had a great season, an amazing season, and then what happened then?
So I'd sort of gone through the trail running season, and then I got to the end of it. To be fair, the problem started a year before that. I don't know if we might as well dive straight into that. So this was as I signed my contract with Arc'teryx, essentially. I actually got food poisoning. That's where it started. And I was seasick for like 10 days, which just affected my appetite to the point where I dropped like 3-4 kilos. At the time, I didn't think much of it, because it was like, I'm a runner. It's great to be a bit lighter.
Secretly, we'd all been like, great.
Yeah. So, and I was a bit like, this is fine. And then I rolled into like my first season of ski mountaineering, and I got some great results, probably helped by the fact that, I was lighter than ever. So I didn't like rush to put on the weight, because I was a bit like, I'll just eat like I always done. So the weight sort of didn't like come back on straight away. It took like 5-6 months. And in that time, I also had COVID. I was racing a lot abroad and in Norway, so I was really just grinding my body down through this. I was on the national team in ski mountaineering, and like I just got to go for this, take the opportunity, don't say no to anything. And then I rolled straight into my trail season, and at that point, to be honest, I was pretty broken. I hadn't had my period for like 6 months, and in my 20s, I didn't have my period regularly. I was working a lot, stressing a lot, and the doctors were just like, don't worry about it. Some females, they just don't have their period that regularly. So you're fine. I went to a specialist, got it checked, and they were like, no, you're good. You're good. So again, I was just like, this has happened to me before. Not going to worry about it too much. Yeah. And so the trail season sort of rolled on. I got some okay results. I had a DNF at the Mont Blanc Marathon. I was feeling rough, to be honest. And then I got poisoned by the water in Chamonix like a week and a half before the CCC, which is a 100K race. I magically managed to pull myself together just in time for the race. I raced the CCC. Again, just like a huge knock to the system, just grinding myself down completely after having had fever for like 4 days. I did pretty well, to be fair. I was surprised. I came sixth.
Yeah.
And I did it in 12 and a half hours or something. So again, I was really pleased with the result. And then I got selected to for the Norwegian trail running team to represent Norway at the World Champs in Thailand, which was happening in November. And at this point, I was like, oh my God, like, I know I'm broken. I still haven't got my period back. Stuff isn't great, but am I going to say no to this opportunity at this point in my career? It's my first year as an Arc'teryx athlete as well. I'm just going to roll up my sleeves and work hard and go for it. So I trained really hard. I did heat acclimatization on top of the training I was doing. And it was tough going for the body. I had a great training race in October where I was really surprised by how close I was to John, because he raced it as well as sort of a training race. And I think that was like the final straw. And then I traveled down to Thailand roughly like a week before the race. And then 3 days before, I started getting a cold, and it just got worse and worse and worse. So on race day, I couldn't race because I was so sick. And
your commentary, like on Instagram, and you were like, oh, she is really ill.
I was really sick. I can't remember having had such a bad cold for a long time. And I then had to travel back home to Norway on this super long, flight. And I just got really depressed because I've been training for so long. I'd put so much effort into it all. I went home to my parents. John was going to the US for a sponsor commitment there. It was like, when your heart's just been crushed. It was a strange feeling. And I really had gone all in and just committed to this. And it was sort of my life in this strange bubble. And then, I just got quite depressed, to be honest. And then 2-3 weeks went by. I sort of took off season, just had to reset. The cold lingered for like a good 2 weeks of that as well. Got back home, met up with John. We went for a run. And at that point, I could just feel something in my hip. And my instant sort of reaction was, I haven't run for so long or trained. Why is there a pain in my hip? And I got it checked out pretty quickly because I'd actually been watching, I think it was Lucy Charles Barkley's YouTube.
Oh yeah, it's good that, isn't it? It's good.
Yeah, and she'd had a hip thing.
And she said it didn't hurt that much and she would have probably just trained through it being athletes.
Yeah. So it was a bit like that. And just the connection to what I'd seen on YouTube was like, okay, I need to check this out because it could be more serious than what it seems to be. So I'm just not going to train through it. So I got an MRI, checked it up, and I had a light stress reaction in my hip. I then went on to do a full blood work, DEXA scan, everything. Because again, by that point, I'd realized that, red S is a thing. Yeah. And I might be sort of affected by it, although I feel pretty bulletproof in a sense. But I got it all checked out. And then as it turned out, my bones were not as strong as I thought they were. And that, I think, is a result of not having my period in my 20s for several years. The damage wasn't necessarily done through that 1 year because it had actually gone pretty far at that point. But the good news was that I was now made aware of it. I could start to reverse it. I got my period back within the following week pretty much. So I wasn't so far in the red. I was just had been a bit out of balance for a year. I'd pushed my body very hard constantly for a long time, and actually just relaxing, eating a bit more, training a bit less did solve that issue. So I was super happy to sort of begin that recovery process pretty quickly. But that was my first year as a sponsored athlete, and it was a rough ride.
I think it reflects a lot of people in your in a lot of females that they maybe do well in a race, they get a bit of media attention, they get some sponsorship offers, and you think the only way I'm going to get better is to train harder rather than looking perhaps at the other aspects of a full-time athlete's life.
You were saying about the bones possibly not being as strong as you thought they were. Just thinking if there's some listeners out there who maybe are going through a similar journey and they're not seeking advice, I suppose, would the situation potentially be irreversible? I
was verging on, I'm not sure what the English word is, so osteoporosis. Yeah. So I was in my back, one of the values was verging on being at that stage. So it had gone pretty far. And I think if I hadn't done anything about it at that point and continued for another 2-3 years, then I might have been in that situation where it would have been hard to actually repair, because your peak bone mass is when you're around I think 30 years old. And from that point, you are actually breaking down more than you're making. So you do need to be very, very careful when you especially sort of go over 30 years. And really, you want to, in your 20s, you basically want to build as strong bones as you can, because once you get to your 30s and 40s and 50s, you're sort of just going to be gradually breaking down.
Tell me about it.
So I was very happy to be made aware of it at that point. I wish I knew earlier. I wish I knew in my 20s when I didn't have a regular period. But luckily, I knew at that point, and I actually had a follow-up DEXA just last week and spoke to my doctor about that last Friday, I think it was. What they then confirmed was that actually my bones had improved by, it doesn't sound by much, but 3.6%. And I was very happy about that, because I was worried I wasn't going to be sort of improving. I would just be standing still, and that wouldn't be a great situation. So actually to be told that, yes, your bones are able to repair, and if you keep at it for another 2 years, you're going to be normal. I was very pleased about that. And in my hip as well, my hips were sort of at a normal range now. It's just my back, which is lagging behind a little bit. And just to put some time frames on this, they say that bones initially lag behind by roughly 6 months. So in the first 6 months of my recovery process, nothing would happen in a way.
Yeah.
They could even get worse because that would reflect what was going on in the autumn in a way. If I'm able to sort of repair this in a 2-3 year time frame, then I'm super happy with that. But for sure, I will not be skipping any periods moving forward. Like, that's my number one priority, because I'm amazed that at the age of, I just turned 33. So to not be aware of the importance of having a regular period, I'm amazed that was me, but it was. I just, people would sort of tell me, oh, it's really important and stuff, but I didn't actually understand the connection between
Long-term health.
Yeah. So it's like estrogen, is that what it's called in English?
Estrogen.
Yeah, the importance of just having that for your bone health is, you need your period. So if in doubt, you should have your period every month. If not, something's up.
So what have you done? What have you changed in your lifestyle and your training? Because that's great, that bone density to have increased that much in that short of time. How's life changed for you?
Yeah, so I was lucky to get my period back pretty much as soon as I started that recovery process. For some people, it might take 6 months to a year to even longer. So I was happy about that. That happened, I think, as a result of training less, eating a bit more and gaining like 2-3 kilos, pretty much like within a 3-week period. So that went pretty quickly as well. From that point, I'd say I was training like I normally would, but I was racing a lot less and traveling a lot less. So the stress on the body was reduced significantly compared to the year before, where I was just constantly traveling, racing. I had a skimo season, I had a trail season. Last year, I didn't have a skimo season. This year, I pretty much won't have a skimo season, and that's a conscious choice that I've made, because I can't keep racing year round. I know that for me, like a couple of trail races in the spring, summer, autumn is enough, especially when I'm doing 50K to 120K distances, which is a huge hit to your system and your body. So I think just like respecting the body more and listening to it. It's so many people say, listen to your body. But actually learning your body and learning to read the signs, that's hard. And I think it takes time to just go through that process and sort of understand how you can do it. And I just feel like I'm a wiser athlete now than I was a couple of years ago. And that's reflected in my bone density. So yeah, hopefully in my results moving forward as well.
And I just love that sentiment. I love the wisdom that you get. We all want to push and push and push, but we all want to do this for as long as possible too. So yeah, learning your body, that's super important.
I love the fact as well you came out of like what could have been a career-ending, life-changing injury. You sorted it out, you moved forward, and then you go and do a winter Bob Graham round, smashing the record. Gary, do you want to?
Well, yeah, I always ask first, actually, why the Bob Graham? What was it about the Bob Graham for you?
Last season, I sort of had a couple of trail races, and then I got to October, and I was a bit like, am I going to end my trail season here, or am I going to do something more this year? And to be fair, last season wasn't without its hiccups either. I think the increase in weight just resulted in small niggles here and there. I also had a really bad sprained ankle in a race. So I was sort of just having a season where I'd have to, I'd race and then I'd take a couple of weeks / months off, and then I'd start running again. So I did feel like, in the autumn, I'd finally sort of got some sort of running shape, but I didn't have the chance to use it. And so I was considering, okay, should I travel and do like Ultra Trail Cape Town? What other races are there? Because there's loads, to choose from. But then I realized that actually I didn't have that urge to do a race, because I've done a lot of races. To be fair, like when I looked back and thought, what were the moments in my trail running life that sort of stand out as being really special to me? It's actually those FKTs or sort of trips that I've done off my own back. And then I started thinking, okay, what sort of routes are there that might excite me and that I want to do? And I thought about it for like a couple of days. It dragged on a bit. And then I literally just woke up one day and was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the Bob Graham winter round. And it got me so excited. It was like the light just came in my head. And I've never been as excited about something before, I think. It's strange, that feeling where you just feel your motivation burning inside you. I love that feeling. And for me, the Bob Graham winter round it was it. When I thought about it, I was just, oh yeah, there's no question about it. That's what I'm doing.
And how would you, from being overseas, it's quite easy for me to get the crew together. I don't live too far away from the lakes. Obviously, that's not the case for you. Do you have some people on the ground in the Keswick area you can lean on?
Yeah, so my husband is English and I've lived in the UK and we have loads of sort of friends and contacts there. I approached Rupert, which is a friend of ours who produces these mountain fuel jellies.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I know Rupert.
Maybe
Bonington,
you guys have, yeah. So like I dropped him an email and was like thinking about doing this, but not sure about doing a recce. What do you think, sort of thing? And he instantly said, like, you should probably come and do a recce. You'd benefit from knowing the route and also getting to know the locals here a little bit. So that's sort of where it started. So I traveled out there mid-November to do a recce. Met up with a couple of people, obviously around the route as well. And it just sort of snowballed from there. And I quickly did realize that you really rely on a good team around you for this sort of thing. In other runs I've done, I've sort of just showed up with a map, compass, GPS watch and gone for it. But that wasn't quite the case here. It took me a little bit of time to realize how it was all going to work out. But I got chatting to Martin Stone when I was over to do the recce as well. And he was like the first guy who did the winter unsupported round back in, I think it was 1987.
Have you listened to that podcast? I think it's Finley Wild. He got some old tips. Wow. He's talking about wearing a wool jumper, Eddie. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, I love that. So yeah, I got chatting to him and then I realized, I need to have a crew for this day.
Yeah.
And he kindly offered as well to help with the logistical supports on the day. So, I mean, at that point, I had to commit to a time window, essentially, where I would be in the UK and all the pacers who would offer to help would be available and whatnot. So I pretty much picked a window of 3 days and said, I'm going to do it on the 19th of December, plus minus 1 day. We were visiting John's family the weekend prior to that. And then we were going on to Norway to celebrate Christmas with my family. So it's sort of squeezed in between.
Oh my goodness me. I bet you were refreshing that weather app constantly.
I certainly was, yeah.
And was the record, was that always the goal?
I think that it was in a way, because that was part of why it excited me, because it was a goal which I thought would be realistic if I had the right conditions. I quickly understood that it was a conditions game. You can't run around in half a meter of snow, obviously, and sort of get under 24 hours. So yeah, I did acknowledge that I needed the right conditions on the day, but I was very much there to try and set a new record as well.
And it looked quite comfortable on paper, the times, your time, say, compared to Eleanor's time. I love numbers. I love people barking out numbers to me. You're 8 minutes down, you're 5 minutes up. Was that the case for you? Were you fully aware of Eleanor's time for the various splits?
Yeah, so I my schedule, because going into it, I had a schedule for 19 hours. That was sort of what we were aiming for initially. And to be fair, like with the conditions and the weather I had on the day, I was worried the night before that it was too optimistic. So when we got started, I was getting time splits pretty much from the get-go. On every top, are you up or down on time? And the Bob Graham, I think, is quite unique from that perspective, because you do really know where you're at pretty early on compared to your timesheet. On the first leg, I was a little bit behind. So that was where we sort of started.
Interesting. And what about various checkpoints? Are you there having your feet massaged, drinking soup and stuff like that? Or you literally grab a gel and off you go? I
was doing this sort of like I would do in a race. So I get into an aid station and I try and be as quick in and out as possible. This was the first time where I had more winter-like conditions and I got quite cold at some points. So I did take the time to sit down and change like my base layer and my jacket and my gloves at almost every road crossing. So that was roughly every 3 to 5 hours, depending on sort of where I was on the course.
And have you, again, because it's a winter round, so on the day there will be a lot of darkness, but have you seen all of the route in daylight at some point?
I hadn't gone up the first climb, up Skiddaw. I knew that was like a very straightforward climb, but I hadn't done that section. I'd done like all of the rest of leg 1 pretty much, all of leg 2, all of leg 3, apart from the section around Scarfell, Lord Rake and whatnot. So that was quite a critical section, which I hadn't done. I'd done all of leg 4 as well, but none of leg 5.
Well, yeah, leg 5 is like, once you come off Robinson, it's like a 10K road race, isn't it? I suppose right at the end. But what was leg 1 like? You got the bogs between, so you come off Skiddaw, and before you get to Great Calvert, it's just like, usually in December, I can imagine it's going to be just a big boggy mess.
It was so bad. Oh my gosh, yeah. So at that point, it was raining, and it was due to be a weather window, which was going to arrive around 6 o'clock. And so initially, Martin Stone had recommended I start at 12 at night, because then I'd hit the more technical sections when I had daylight. I then pushed the start to 2 o'clock, arguing that I need my beauty sleep. And then the weather window was due to show up at 6, and then I pushed it another hour. So I actually started at 3.
Fever. I never knew this about you.
Yeah, so I started 3 hours later than sort of Martin had urged me to. And so I was running around, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, waiting for this weather window, and it just didn't arrive. And we hit that boggy section. We were pretty cold at this point as well, because there was quite wind chill.
Yeah.
And it was so boggy. It was terrible. And John was running with me at this point as well, and he hadn't really recce'd a lot of it. And he told me afterwards that he just thought to himself, there's no way she's going to be going around this thing with these conditions. It's horrendous. But that section in particular, as it turned out, was probably the worst section on the entire route. It was bad. And I was dropping my poles, because I was doing this with poles as well. We got some hilarious footage actually of running around in this swamp. It was rough. There were like holes that you just didn't see that I was just sort of going down into.
It's pretty wild. I think if people ever do recce leg 1, rest assured the whole of the bob is not like the section between Skiddaw and Great Calvert. I think leg 3, there's some boggy sections on that depending on the weather. But yeah, generally after that, it's pretty rocky. Do you have a favourite leg? Leg 4 for me. I think I've had to do one over and over again.
Leg 4 was super windy on the day, and when I recce'd it, I didn't see anything, and it was super windy too. So I can't say that's my favourite leg. I actually, on the day, really enjoyed the second half of leg 3. Leg 3 starts off terribly. It's really boggy and slow, and you just feel pretty shit. Yeah. But the second half of it, I met this walker with a dog, and I love dogs. So, and I was at a pretty low point at this point in the day. But I walked over to the owner with this dog, and I said, "Oh, can I say hello?" And so I got to cuddle this dog, and it just did something in my mind which it just changed me. And from that stage onwards, I just really enjoyed the sort of more technical rocky trails, and going up Lord's Rake as well. I hadn't been there during the recce, and I was sort of a bit nervous / excited about the whole experience, but it turned out to be quite exciting and fun. So I really enjoyed the second half of leg 3 due to various reasons.
I love that, because I met the dog. I broke the window of my phone, but the highlight really actually was meeting the dog.
It was really cute.
You're right, though. It does transform. Leg 3 does start off really grassy and boggy, and then, it just gets super rocky. Did you, I suppose, when you've done Lodge Rake, you do Scarfell, and then there's that amazing scree slope as you come into Wasdale too. That is such an awesome ride. I love that.
And we had really beautiful light as well. The sun was sort of playing around with the clouds and shining through, and it was really fun. And I had some great guys pace me for that as well. I wasn't quite ready for the fact that they would literally be chatting the entire way. They would not shut up. But their energy was really good. And when we hit that downhill, they were sort of just like playing around, showing off their fell running skills, to the point where they were sliding down this grass at one point. And I was like, oh, wow, that looks cool. I'm going to try that. And then I realized pretty quickly that just hurts. So my bum was like a bit sore for the rest of the day.
Brilliant. How many runners did you have with you? Curious about that. It's usually the case you have a navigator and somebody would carry your bits and bobs, and then you'll just be left to run free. Was that the case? Just you and two other people?
Roughly two other pacers that would help carry stuff. On some of the legs, we did have 3 pacers, actually. So I had a great team around me, and I think that was definitely one of the reasons why on the day I did manage to sort of surpass expectations and set a really good time, because I couldn't have asked for a better team. Yeah, looking back on the Bob Graham, it's definitely one of those, it's my best trail running memory ever. And the whole day just stands out as this crazy, amazing experience. And I think the team aspect of it all is one of the main reasons why it is so special, because it's not just you running around. It is literally this team thing. Yeah, going back to the paces and the whole experience, chatting to them along the way, having this pressure of sort of giving something back to them as well in terms of setting a good time, but then managing to pull that off. It was just a lot of emotions involved because of all the people involved. And it was unique and special in so many ways. And I'm extremely grateful to everyone who came out and helped me on the day and helped me going into it as well.
There is a lot of pressure, you're right. You know, you really have to show up physically and mentally, because there is a whole army of people who've given up probably a weekend and loads of recce time too. Highs and lows.
The dog was a high moment. But also another high moment was, so I came off sort of the final mountain section on leg 5. And then I was hoping to sort of do it in around 18.5 hours when I went into leg 5. That was sort of a realistic goal based on where we were at on the timesheet. But I was then told that I could break 18 hours if I just ran really fast the final sort of kilometers. And I then just put my AirPods in and grinded away as fast as I could on this horrible road section. And I'm not a flat runner, remember? But yeah, managing to squeeze under 18 hours, having sort of hammered that last bit was very special. So that was definitely like a big high to sort of wrap up this crazy day.
What was your song of choice to battle along that road?
I did put this running interval playlist that I have on. It's the same playlist that John used in CCC, so it's got some magic to it, I think. But there's this song that really gets me going called She Wolf, I think. I forget who sings it, but it just gets me going. So I had to skip a couple of songs, you know, to get to that track and be like, here we go. She Wolf.
Did you slip under road shoes for that last section?
I didn't in the end, no. I was wearing like a pair of Arc'teryx Proto trail shoes that are pretty bouncy and runnable anyway on sort of the trail. I plowed ahead. My pacer did change. So I was running without a pacer at one point because the other pacer stopped because he'd done 2 legs. And so I got to this cross pretty early on the road section and looked left and looked right. And I was like, I haven't recce'd this.
Oh my goodness me.
But someone shouted, right. And then, we sorted that situation. But yeah, so that was definitely a big high. And then in terms of lows, the boggy section on leg 1 was a low. Leg 1, in all fairness, was definitely quite tough. And I just did think to myself, boy, I got another like potentially 16 hours of this. It's terrible. And then on leg 4 as well, we did screw up the navigation a little bit. And then John, sort of, who'd never been there, had to improvise and took us up this gully. And we ended up scrambling. And actually one of the other pacers, Nicola, she didn't manage to get up there first. So again, that was just a situation where we were a bit like, oh no, what's going on? Are we going to get through this as a team?
Oh, wow.
But, you know, looking back at it all, the lows made the highs and the whole experience what it was. And it truly was one of those magical days that I'll just remember forever, I think. A lot of people have asked me, are you going to go back and do the summer round like this summer? And I'm like, no, I want to treasure that for a bit longer before I go back, because I think if I went back this summer, it would be disappointing in a way, because I've got all these crazy memories that just need to be processed for a bit longer. But having said that, I am hoping to go back in 2025 perhaps and have a good crack at the summer round.
You can just jog around, just see the views, just enjoy it.
Sights.
Yeah, no, John and I are definitely quite taken by the lakes, especially after my recce as well. I did have one beautiful day when I did leg 2, and we do very much want to go back there and do some running and training there, because it's really nice. I was surprised by how nice it is, and it's so soft on the body as well with the fells, so you can actually do a lot more hours, I find, than for example in the Alps, where it's hard packed and pretty harsh on the muscles and the body.
Did you train your training when you thought, okay, I'm going to do this? You didn't have much time from that thought to when you're actually going to do it. How did you train differently? I
mean, I sort of decided end of October that I was going to do it. So I really didn't have that long. The recce was a really good training block, because I did just end up doing like, I think it was 3 or 4 days where I was out for like 3, 4, 5 hours each day in the terrain I was going to run in. So that was a really good training block. And other than that, I actually just spent a lot of time on the logistical side of it, because I think when you do a long ultra thing, that can really make or break it when it comes to nutrition, change of clothes, just the sort of mental side of it, because that was essentially what I could do something about. I couldn't do so much about my fitness. I could probably ruin my fitness in the sense that I could do too much. So I was very conscious of that when I especially got to December. I was like, okay, I'm not going to fry myself and do too much at this point, because that's going to be a really long day out and you do need those extra reserves. So for me, it was just sort of maintaining the fitness I'd already built up and then just nailing the strategic side of it, which I think a lot of people do actually underestimate when they go into something long like that. Like I'm nothing special when it comes to fitness or running, in all fairness, but I'm very good at planning. And that did really benefit me when it came to something like this.
Love that. What about nutrition for the run? Mm-hmm. Did you go for sort of sports nutrition or a mixture or some wholesome English treats?
So I ended up, initially I was planning on taking quite a lot of bars, like sports bars, especially in the earlier parts of the run. But it quickly ended up being gels. From about like 2 hours in, I was just full on gels and sports drink. So I fueled the entire thing on gels and sports drink.
Wow.
Must have been so high at the end.
I think maybe I had like a bar or two, like on
Wonder She-Wolf did the goodness in the last half hour. You were on a sugar.
I came into leg 5 and one of the road supporters, he was just amazed because I smashed 2, like I had these Velo Forte natural gels. I'd never tried them before.
Oh, they're good, aren't they?
Yeah, and they had these caffeine gels. So I smashed 2 caffeine gels sitting in this aid station.
It's like 120 milligrams in each gel. That's like 240. That's like 4 cups of coffee.
Wow, that'll get you up tail end pretty quick.
And then I just ran off, you know? It really works because I nailed the road section at the end. But yeah, so I just had gels.
Wow, that's amazing.
I can't believe you did all that on gels. That's pretty good.
I will say I love my food. Like I do love various treats. And when I train, I go for the more, natural food treats and I avoid the gels. But when it comes to racing, I find that it can screw with my stomach a little bit if I had too much fat, especially. So that's why gels just seem to work, because it is just sugar.
Especially when it's cold as well. You can't faff around. You can just stick that in your mouth and you've got the calories, and then back into the bog, back into the bog.
Did the guy from the bar, did he run up with his pint glass? Did he give you his beer?
No, he didn't actually. We did go to his pub and have burgers because we're friends with James Appleton, who's like a co-owner there. But yeah, it was okay. I didn't mind. But I will also add actually that Martin Stone insisted on making a cup of English breakfast tea on every sort of road crossing. And at the first one, I was like, oh no, I don't fancy that. But on the second, third and fourth one, I was like, definitely, I will have that.
You can't do the Bulgarian round without at least 4 cups of tea.
Cup of tea, yeah.
And a Bello Forte double caffeine gel. How was your kit, Henriette? Any outstanding bits of kit?
I was wearing a merino wool full on long sleeve with a wind jacket over it, with a rain jacket over it.
Good, excellent.
With the buff, which sort of squeezed my face to look a little bit bigger than it needed to. So I got some great shots of me. I did wear a pair of Arc'teryx winter tights, which I think they were just brilliant because I could wear them the entire 18 hours and didn't have sort of any issues with.
No waterproof trousers over the top, just in the top.
No. Just winter tights the entire way. And that, like when I did my recce as well, I did the whole recce in them. So I knew they wouldn't chafe. And I knew they would just actually keep me warm, even when it was sort of rainy and windy. And then, yeah, they're a bit hot when the sort of sun comes out. But I do find that they do sort of do the trick in a lot of conditions. So they were pretty solid.
What about sock choice? Because that's quite tricky.
Yeah, so I'd been experimenting with various socks because I'm a sock freak, to be honest.
Love a sock. I
love a good sock. And I'd landed on these Cedas merino wool socks, which they have like a trail sock and then they have a trail merino sock. And I find that their road merino socks aren't great on the trails naturally, but the trail merino sock just really works for me. So again,
Cedax, is that Cedax?
Yeah, they were brilliant and they didn't give me any blisters or anything, so they were great. I did tape my ankles because I was worried about spraining my ankles. Like going into it, I was literally worried I was going to fall over somewhere and that would be it. I'd be done. And I on one of my feet, I think I taped them a little bit too much, and so your feet do swell when you run for that long. So I did actually get a bit of pain from that. So if you're out there doing a long ultra, be careful with the taping because your feet do swell.
You're taping in your laces. You have to just be flexible with it, don't you? One more question. So John paced you. Did he pace you for like 2.5 legs, 3 legs?
Yes. So he was going to pace me for 1 and 2. That was the plan. I figured I'd be moving quicker then than at the end. And so, I didn't want him to walk around with me essentially because I get annoyed as well when he's with me.
This was where I was leading. I was like, what was that? Was that fun? Were there moments of love or moments of...
Well, so leg 1 and 2 was fine. We got through that. And then I told him, don't drive around to Wasdale because that's like a 1.5 hour drive just to see me. So don't do that. Go back, rest. You need to train the next day. And who shows up in Wasdale? Oh, John.
You tell him off. Were you like...
And then at that point, I only had 2 paces for that leg and they did have a lot of stuff to carry. So then John asked me, do you want me to join for this and help carry stuff? And I said, yeah, that's fine. So he ended up joining on leg 4 as well. And I was getting a bit more tired at that point. Yeah, like I mentioned before as well, tiny navigational errors. I was a bit quick perhaps to get a bit moody with him around. So I will admit on leg 4, I did have a bit, my lowest point on the route was leg 4, going up Great Gable, slightly off path, a bit annoyed at John, to be fair.
Yeah, because if you get your paces, you don't know them, so you have to be on best behavior and be best behavior. But you can just be like,
Yeah, it does something mentally. So he asked actually when we got into the road crossing at Honister Pass, which is the final road crossing before the finish. He was like, should I join leg 5? And I said, no, don't join leg 5. And then it's interesting how your mind just does switch and your mood switches when you sort of meet someone else and you're not with your husband anymore. Yeah. So that did help on the final section because I almost go slower because I want to make a point, when John's around, like, oh, you're making me moody and I'm going to go slower now. when I'm alone with strangers, I'm like, okay, I'm strong.
Yeah, exactly. I'm better without my husband because I'm like, you make me feel weak. I feel like I can rely on you. If you're not there, and he gets that concerned look as well. And I'm like, I know that look. I'm fine. It's like when we're skiing really horrible stuff and he looks back and I'm like, you don't need to keep looking back. I'm fine. I'm fine. Even though I'm going.
That's so nice to hear. Yeah, it's definitely the same. I'm way better without John around, but he finds it really hard to understand that.
My wife told me she doesn't like running. We did Manchester Marathon together. She didn't enjoy that.
Oh no, I'd hate to do that with John.
We could talk about the Bob Graham all day. You told such an amazing story though, and I feel perhaps we haven't done it justice, but well done. Wow, amazing. Such an amazing achievement. And no doubt something you'll live with you forever, especially I think when you've had a really rubbish time leading up into it, the sort of year before, being to have that back in your life. It's such a sweet moment. One of the other reasons we wanted to grab you onto the podcast was to talk about the album app, which I was a prototype tester, I'd like to say. I was an OG, original. And lots of people often mention it on our Facebook group that they use it. And then there's always lots of questions like, what is this app? What is this app? Can you tell us a little bit about maybe like where it came from and where it is now? Because it's come a long way as well. And it's not been going that long, a year and a half, 2 years maybe.
Yeah, it might be two years now. And it's sort of like my husband, John Albon's baby. And he co-founded it with myself and then 2 other guys as well. So we're a team of 4. I'll try and do my best to explain what it is. John is the specialist.
Well, we don't need John. Keep this.
But essentially, it all started with John going, I want an app which does what I need in my training. And we both, John and I, are fans of a flexible training system. So it shouldn't be you wake up and you have to do this exact workout on that exact day. It should be a much more flexible system because we know at the end of the day, what matters the most is consistency over time and that you're enjoying the process. Then we sort of created together this training system or platform, if you like, which allows for more flexibility than your standard sort of 10K running plan that you can download online or whatever. And it's also meant to sort of bridge the gap between the 10K training plan you get online and having a personal coach. So it's sort of something in the middle where you as the runner or athlete can sort of get more involved in your training and steer your training a bit more, but still get some sort of guidance. So it's sort of like a training map in a way, but you got to navigate it and make choices and be clever. But we also think that if you're able to do that and be more invested in the process, it's going to be so much more enjoyable. And I think it just comes back to the fact that we love the process of training. So this brings that process of training to the user rather than just saying, right, this is your program, go do it. It's more, here's what we suggest. You make some choices that are right for you, and hopefully it'll make you better over time.
I love that it's a map, but that you have to put, a bit like the Bob Graham round, you have to put your time in to like think through, well, how's this week going to look? Or how's the next 4 weeks? What do I want to get out of it? What do I want to do? And I love the multi-sport. If you're perhaps, you're a trail runner, but you loved using different aspects of training, it gives you all those options of like, okay, swap this. Because I think people are scared to not run. And like, if they see like a bike ride or something, anything else, they think if it's not got miles on Strava on my feet, it's not worth training. But it incorporates all of that into the app as well, so that it gives its reason, it gives its purpose. And then the other thing I love about it is that it gives you different sessions. So you can do your session on your bike. You can do your session on skis if you're so lucky that you can ski. But it also gives you different running sessions and then progression of those running sessions. I do think the sessions are hard, but it's an album app. If it was easy, it's, you guys are hard. The sessions are hard, but there are progressions there, and you can make it as hard or as easy as you want as well.
Yeah, and I think going back to the interval sessions we were talking about earlier as well. Some of the tempo intervals in the app, they are long compared to what you might see in other programs. But then again, the level should be very manageable. So you do have to be honest with yourself and dial back the speeds, because what matters from our point of view is how long duration you're sort of working. You don't need to be working super, super hard. That's not the most important thing. You just got to sort of maintain a good pace for a longish time. So dialing back the speeds, being honest with yourself is a very important part of that process. And I think a lot of people feel like they have to go out and hammer and work really hard to get training benefits. But if you look up Blumenfeld, the triathlon guys, or Ingebrigtsen, the track guys, they're both Norwegian. They are also huge fans of dialing back the effort level, but extending the duration a bit more. And that's what John's found it to work really well for him. And I also think it works well for me.
And also the massive focus on cross training, I love as well. Like the volume you can get, you don't need to get all the volume from running. In fact, most of your volume and John's volume, and it encourages you on the app, switch it up, do something different.
Going back to the bone side of stuff as well, I think, running is great, but I think running huge amounts over many, many months and years does grind your body down quite a lot. So we definitely notice that when we incorporate cross training, the whole body feels so much better because you're not getting that pounding and impact every single day.
I think you enjoy your running a bit more as well, because it's like, it's not a chore. It's not something you have to do every day, twice a day. It's like, oh yes, it's a run. And then the cross training can be, something you can do with friends, something you can do with the family. It is tricky. And I understand like people will be like, but I only have 40 minutes a day. Like the running is hard to fit in. So it's very hard to work out what's best for people, but it's a great tool. And I know it's always developing, and you can go in there and you can ask questions and you can watch videos. You can do follow along strength routines. Hilarious. I love those ones.
And it's not just trails though, is it? I'm training for a road marathon. So it would be, you could find a plan for people who hit maybe 5K tarmacs and road marathons too.
At the moment, it's trail and OCR. We have had people use the trail plans for road running. They just sort of, because there's loads of adaptions, like when you get a workout, you can sort of choose. But we are playing with the idea of launching sort of more pure road plans as well for the users who just want to sort of stick to more flat stuff, basically. I will also add that we are launching an update this week, hopefully. So that will be another upgrade to the app. So if you have checked it out before, but were a bit scared, I recommend sort of going in and trying again, because we have made the onboarding process at the beginning a bit easier for new users, because we chuck all our sort of thoughts and efforts into this, but we do need to really think of it from a user perspective and dial it back and make it usable and sort of easy to approach. That's perhaps what we're struggling with at the moment. So it is a work in progress. It is sort of a hobby project we have on the side, but we are super passionate about bringing trail and OCR training to people and making people more able to make decisions themselves rather than having to hire a full-time coach or something along those lines.
You've got a really good YouTube channel too. I've checked that out earlier in the week. So if people want to head over to YouTube too, they can get some great resources over there.
And we will have a Bob Graham video out early March.
With the buff face.
With the buff face, yes.
Are you planning on going to the dinner next year?
I'm hoping to go, and I'm hoping to have a crack at the summer round before that. So that's sort of my long-term goal.
Double certificates.
That'll be a heavy flex when you collect your certificate. I love it.
Beth Pascal's time for the summer round is insane though. So I think I'd be pretty happy if I sort of managed to get close to Jasmine's 15.5 hour mark. But I look forward to actually having a good crack at it. I hope I get the opportunity to.
You have to go down. I think when she came off Blencathra, she did the parachute route, which is just pretty much, free fall off Blencathra. Sorry. Awesome. Well, it has been a treat. Before we're going to let you go, we've got 5 questions. These are the tough ones. These are the tough ones, Henriette.
I'm ready for it.
Okay, it's Groundhog Day. You wake up and you can only do one sport for the rest of your life. It's going to be skiing or running. Skiing for the downhills. Sorry, trail runners. The downhills are so much fun. In good snow. Good snow.
In good snow. Yeah. I hear you. That was about dogs, which we deleted because I said they haven't got a dog, but maybe in the future the Albans need a dog, I think.
we would love to have a dog. We travel too much at the moment. So yeah, we haven't incorporated a dog in our life yet. But when we travel less, we will have a dog. Yeah.
Dogs.
Maybe one. I'm not a huge fan of all the hairs.
Yeah, you need to get
A lot of hairs. Bucket list race. Anything out there that you'd still like to do?
To be fair, I've done a lot of races and races come and go. And I'm more psyched about the Summer Bob Graham.
Yay. Awesome. We'll have to invite you back on in the summer. Signatures. Eddie and I, we're going to shuffle along to your house, and we're banging on the door. We are in Norway. We're absolutely famished. What's your signature dish? What are you going to rustle up for us?
It's going to sound strange, but Norwegian tacos. It's like a national dish here.
No, tell us more.
It's like tacos with a European twist. So they're not spicy. There's not a lot of beans. It's like mince with a load of veg, sour cream, cheese in a wrap.
Oh,
Okay. Not a crunchy like taco, like a more...
No, it's different. But if you meet a Norwegian, talk to them about Taco Fridays and you'll have lots to chat about.
Okay, we're going to go back in time, Henriette. What posters were on your wall as a kid?
To be fair, this is going to sound so sad, but I don't think I had many posters because I was busy, focused on stuff. I had a job from I was 13. I did football, dance. I didn't have any posters. It was a bit sad. Maybe Britney Spears, but it didn't really mean much to me. I liked her songs though.
Oh, I still love Britney.
We all love Britney. Every week we share the podcast over on Instagram, but we can't be trusted with the song choice, Henriette. So we're going to put that over to you. What song would you like us to put to your Instagram story post?
Runaway to Mars by Talk, I think.
Oh,
goodness.
That is my Bob Graham song because I discovered it just before I traveled out to the UK, and it was a momentous trip for me, driving on the wrong side of the road for the first time in my life while listening to this soundtrack, feeling like I was winning at life.
I'm gonna listen to your playlist. It's on Spotify. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah,
I didn't know this. Are they public?
Oh no, maybe we shouldn't share this.
That's cool. No, yeah, feel free to. I have said to John we should really share that playlist because a lot of people ask about it. But yeah, Runaway to Mars by Talk. I have no idea where this song is from, but I listened to it on Discovery Weekly one week and then just loved it.
I'm going to follow you. You've only got 8 followers on Spotify, so maybe we can up that a little bit as well.
You can double it.
I didn't know that was a follow thing.
Playlist, Running Into Girls. Katy Perry, nice. Ellie Goulding. No Britney yet, Rihanna. Oh, you and I would have a great disco with this play. Gary wouldn't even enter the building. He wouldn't like this.
I'll tell you a secret fun fact. I used to be a hip hop instructor. So I like to think.
So coming to your
nice a good tune.
Yeah.
That's going to be added to our quick 5 questions. Fun fact.
Fun fact, hip hop instructor. This is amazing. It's 4 hours worth of music. Oh my God, it's going to go viral once we put this podcast goes out.
Yeah. I'm now going to check what other playlists.
No, editing.
That's more than enough for a Bob Graham round leg. Awesome. 4 hours of music. That'll keep you well busy.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We haven't asked you what's the plans for this year?
Oh, yes.
Can we share?
In 2 minds, but I will loosely share some plans. I've really considered like what races get me fired up because I think it's very easy to just be like, oh, I'm going to do what's expected of me. But I've tried to have a think about what races do I actually want to do. And I'll be starting off the year by going back to the UK for the Snowdonia 50K.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes, I just really love the train. John's sister lives 20 minutes away and I'm really excited about that. I'm really looking forward to it. And then I'll be hopefully doing some Skyrunner World Series events throughout the year. And I'll see whether I cap the year off with the Skyrunner World Series final or if I go for a personal project a little bit far away. We'll see.
Oh, exciting. Oh, what a treat. Everyone's going to get to see you at Snowdonia. Just last year, it was like a heat wave. And so just prepare yourself, get the bucket hat ready.
I will. Thanks for the advice.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, giving up your time. It was a treat.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Henriette. I look forward to seeing what you get up to in 2024. Thank you so much as well, telling us all about the Albon app. I know lots of people use the Albon app, and perhaps if coaching isn't for you or you want to take charge of your training a little bit more, go and check it out. Do you know, Gary, I use it. I use it because it helps me plan my weeks without having to put too much thought into it.
Yeah.
And the sessions are super easy, Lola. Just like, they're hard. They are hard though, but also you can set your limiters of like hours you want to do and stuff like that. So for an all-round thing, it's a really great way. And you mean you're not going to lose out by having a go and having a look at it.
That sounds super popular too. Strava mileage totals. We've got two.
About Strava, because I like to interrupt you at every opportunity. When I go for a run, a lovely snowy run, I get a ton of, especially if I post a nice picture, ton of kudos. It wasn't that much of a chore. In fact, it was a joy with the dog. When I go to the gym and absolutely nail myself and literally can't sit down, I get nothing. People do not respect hard work over there on Strava.
You got to chase the numbers, Eddie. Just do what people like.
I'm like, guys.
I think Strava loves a photograph and a description.
Okay, yeah.
I just did a podcast once, and it was one of the people who are involved with the startup of Strava, and obviously they're privy to all the deets. And yeah, he said, if you're trying to grow your Strava, have a description.
I'm not really interested about growing. I just want respect. I just want respect on Strava. So.
But yeah, these two guys are getting respect. And yeah, two of our Strava Club members are out there doing a marathon every day. Brendan Handrick, we mentioned him last week. Yeah, he's still going. And Aaron Robertson showing no signs of stopping too. 185.7 for Brendan and 183.9 for Aaron. Heavy flex. Total time on feet crown goes to Emma Runciman. She's doing the Spine Challenge in North, 87 hours. But yeah, we've got a raft of Spine Challenge in Northers. And I think the MRT must be the mountain rescue version of that race. So yeah, Nicola McNally, 79 hours, 50 minutes and 44 seconds. And Lou Beetlestone, 79 hours, 28 minutes and 2 seconds too. Lou's on the top of the charts for the elevation. Wow, 26,335 feet. Stuart McNichol, second over there, 24,751 feet. Spine Challenger North 2. And Bruce Humphreys, another Spine Challenger North finisher, 24,058 feet.
It always amazes me that there's not more climbing in the Spine. There's only 40,000 feet in the whole race, which over that amount of distance is not really that much. But
I suppose it is obviously there's lots of climbing, but it's not aggressive like Wales or Scotland or the lakes, is it? It's
no.
I've never done it. So it's not really fair for me to say what it's like when you're absolutely shattered and climbing up Crossfell. But
yeah, I've forgotten that bit. Yeah, that is.
But yeah, awesome. And we'll be back to normal next week with the Strava Club. I just thought because so many people have done some enormous efforts the past 2 weeks, we'd just give a few more shout outs down the charts.
Hi, Eddie and Dales from the. You introduce it. You're so much better at this than me.
Tales from the trails.
Way you say that, Gary, it gives me goosebumps. Hi, Eddie and Gary. This tale is accompanied by a video for everyone's amusement. Should you wish to share it? Yeah, we'd love to share it. We can share it on our Facebook page. Gary's nodding.
In the notes too.
Such a podcaster. Once upon a jog, I set out on a local trail near my home, armed with determination and a questionable sense of direction. Approximately 1 mile into my uphill struggle, I stumbled upon a pheasant that seemed more interested in fitness than flying. Amazed by the display before me, I whipped out my mobile phone to capture this unusual running buddy. Little did I know, oh dear, this feathery companion had ulterior motives. As I continued up the steep path, the pheasant transformed from a curious walker to a relentless jogger pecking at my heels. Panicking and clueless, I grasped a nearby stick, hoping to shoo away my newfound adversary. Alas, each attempt to run only invited more feathery fury as the pheasant pecked me on the derriere with an indignant squawk. It was a battle of wits, and I, clearly outmatched, flailed down the path, stick in hand. In a bizarre twist, whilst taking a moment to catch my breath and assess the situation, the pheasant casually dined on grass as if it had not just terrorised a jogger, only to resume the chase with a newfound vigour. After what felt like an eternity, it was probably only half a mile, the pheasant, satisfied with its exercise routine, decided I'd endured enough and allowed me to retreat. But little did I know, my misadventure was not over, for I found myself sandwiched between the original pheasant and its equally confused friend. This is like a children's book. Luckily, the second pheasant caught wind of my stick and departed stage left, allowing me to head home, hoping to leave behind the foul memory of a jog turned pheasant pursuit. As I recovered my heart rate to less than 200, I couldn't help but wonder what had turned my jog into a feathery fiasco. Unbeknownst to me, the pheasant posse was deep into their mating season, a time when male pheasants turn into territorial romantics. The red on their heads, once mere colourful ornaments, signalled a commitment to wooing potential mates and defending their territory. Unfortunately for me, my uphill route intersected with this romantic battlefield of these clueless Casanovas. Undeterred by my lack of pheasant mating season knowledge, I continued my uphill struggle, blissfully unaware that the red-crowned rebels were interpreting my presence as an invasion. With every step, I unwittingly disrupted their courtship rituals and prompted the pheasants to defend their love nests with indignant squawks and pecks. As I desperately fended off attacks with a stick, I failed to realise that the red-headed rascals were simply following their biological imperative. It wasn't personal. They were just trying to impress their potential mates and secure their love triangle. So I decided I wouldn't be beaten. I bravely returned on the route, feeling I should be loaded with a stun gun and mace spray instead of a hydration pack and snacks. I swore I caught a glimpse of the pheasant pair engaging in a heated discussion over my presence, as if debating the merits of a jogger intruder. Eventually, after a grueling half mile of running the gauntlet, the pheasants, satisfied with their territorial defence efforts, allowed me to escape their romantic crossfire. And so the tale of my clueless jog becomes a quirky blend of romantic misadventure and unexpected encounters with the territorial tendencies of love-struck pheasants. My advice, don't trust pheasants. Happy running. Go.
I love that. And it was an orgy of alliterations, that Tales from the...
And my children have just been learning about alliteration. And so I can just read them that joke. You ever been chased with by anybody? Girls, just mainly when you're
I've never... Oh, there must have been dogs. Yeah, definitely a few dogs over the years. Nothing. A few cows maybe when you go in the field, or a bull or two, but not a
We used
pheasant.
to have a llama field where there was a llama that used to run with goats or sheep or something and like protect the sheep. And you had to get across the field before it spotted you and then started chasing you. Or send someone across to be send a young 20-year-old lad across the field to be the deterrent.
We were at the RSPB once in oh my goodness me, Steel Sands, and the land must be shared with a farmer, and he had his cattle in one of the fields, and they were all congregating around the gate, super curious, just not aggressive.
Oh, I tell you what, yesterday when I was running down the hill, loads of Strava kudos for that run. Love that one. I could hear, I was listening to my motivational classical music, obviously. I could hear like these wolves howling, and I thought it was in the music. I was like, that's really realistic.
Ooh.
And we went round the corner, and someone had a load of, what are they called, huskies attached to a sledge. They were going
Awesome.
mad. Even Lindy, who is the most popular and friendly dog in the valley, went, I don't think they want to say hi. They were like,
I'd love to see that. What a sight that would be.
I was a bit frightened though, because he was like holding them and they were like, I was like, if you let go, someone is not getting home. And so
I feel spits where when I'm out with Rex and you pass another dog walking, they've got a really big dog. And they're doing the best to control it.
And I'm like, oh, I don't breathe. I'm like, oh my God, self-sacrifice, Lindy and Taki, you go first. Right, we love reading out your tales from trails. We got distracted. So if you have a story that needs to be shared, email it to hello@tntrails.com. I can't wait to see that video.
More things that we like to read out are 5-star reviews, and we've got a couple in the bank. who wants to go first? You got a particular favorite?
You go. I need to slurp a tea after Joe.
Okay. I'll pick the one that's one sentence long. You can do them. And not quite long enough for the long run. Really enjoy the mix of chat and interviews and hearing all about Eddie and Gary's exploits. It's reassuring to know that everyone has ups and downs along the way. I hear that. Yeah, big time. Just sorry, they always run out of chat before the end of the long run. Keep up the great work. Carol Hill via Apple Podcasts. Oh, I'd love to make a longer podcast, but
shut that door.
There's just not enough time. It's simple as that. I'd love to do it though.
No one needs to hear more of this chat. Nobody. Right, I'll go long. I've moistened. Motivational! 3 exclamation marks. As a newbie to trails, I fell, seems a theme in my trail running, across this wonderful podcast. Whilst informative and engaging, you can't help but feel part of the family, which is a common theme across the community. Always superb content. Not sure about that today. And guests, that's definitely sure. And of course, not forgetting hearing all the details for Eddie on the spine and Gary on the dragon's back. I enjoy both current and catching up listening to the historical tales from the trails for the valuable insights and motivable lessons from all over the globe. My personal favourite, though, is chat with the coaches. I love that, with the access to real people asking real questions about what we all doing when we come to signing up for the next big thing. Are we all crazy? Yeah. But all the best people are. Keep doing what you're doing. It's perfect. Adventures with Raven. Oh,
I wonder if that's a channel or a YouTube channel or something like that. Adventures with Raven. I have to Google that. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that. And it's really good to have some feedback for a particular section on the show.
Sometimes Bryn has tips for us. Like he'll say something if he's been listening, and I'm like, yeah, no. Talk to me.
Interesting.
No, interested in your feedback. But thank you so much. If you did leave us a 5-star review, keep them coming. We love reading them out.
We've still got our Patreon only competition, and all patrons who are legend level and above will be entered into a random draw to win some Shocks Open Run Pro headphones. I'll spin the wheel on Sunday the 4th of February, 7 p.m. ish. And thanks to everyone who took part. Also, we don't have that many patrons who are legends and above, so the odds are pretty good at the moment. Wow, it feels like we've got to the end of the show super fast, Eddie.
I think I'm still on the high of the treadmill run, so
we'll get some complaints to make the podcast longer. But yeah, before we go, what you got coming up?
What I got coming up, Gary? I don't know. I'm living by the seat of my pants. So I've done one gym. I've done one session. I don't know how I'm going to do a long run. I just have to be on the skis, I think. The long run is just, I could do a long run on the treadmill, but really, I'll see. You'll see at the weekend, Strava followers, what I decide to do. Tonight, we've got a late night because we're skiing up the mountain with the kids for their school, and then we will have a fondue at the top of the mountain. And then
I love the sound of that.
Oh, you do, Gary, but honestly, it's late and long, and there's a lot of wine drinking, and I don't drink. And then it's meant to be raining, so I'm not sure. Last time we did it was like a beautiful night, and Bryn and I had like a love ski at the back and just skied down like in the dark. But this time it looks like rain, and Bryn's working, so it's me.
Do you get more kudos for your runs or your skis?
Oh no one. Yeah, I think it's the running. People, like that skiing uphill, that's hard, man. It's hard. There's some sweating. However much I do it, it never gets any easier. It's like just running uphill. It's just hard. Anyway, so I've got a shorter speed session to do. I've got my 2 more updated gym sessions to do. I'm going to do, maybe I'll do my long session on a bike at the weekend. The weather's not looking great. Go back in that little studio with my mate. Just keep ticking those sessions. Yeah, we've only got one child's going away to go and look at a football academy and watch some football matches. I cannot tell you the excitement.
That is super exciting.
And even for a boy, he says, what am I going to wear? I was like, I can pretty much guarantee what you'll wear in that drawer of football kit. That is so exciting. That's the dream. To me, it's like, oh my God, I'd rather die than go and watch.
I can't imagine how exciting that would be for a young boy who loves football.
who lives and breathes football. I mean, lives and breathes football so much that watches YouTube, doesn't watch any normal television. That to him is like so dull. Just watches the England training camp playing football. There's no sound, there's no talking. He just watches them kicking the ball around. That is his, and then he'll just have a ball while he's watching the television, just kicking that ball around.
Completely immersed in the moment. I love it.
There must be so many people that have got boys, maybe girls as well, but I just think boys and football at that age, they are just, it's life. So we've only got 2 children this weekend. It'll be like almost one less bowl to put in the dishwasher. It always feels a bit easier. And one of the days they're not skiing, which is great. So we might get a bit of a lie-in. Well, you know.
Oh, imagine that.
No, getting up at 6:30. That's so hard when the skiing starts at the 1st of December. I get up at 6:30 every single morning.
Yeah, that was Saturday and Sunday for me. I know 6:30 is probably quite late for some people, but yeah.
I know.
Saturday and Sunday. I had an alarm both Saturday and Sunday, so I wasn't happy bunny.
Well, just one day of not having an alarm, and it just means I can watch more episodes of Slow Horses the night before. I'm not sure.
Traitors was awesome, actually. Last night we watched it. See, series 1, so we're way behind.
Oh, you're a whole... Oh, yeah.
It was this, but you might remember this. I think his name's John or Tom. He's the magician who reads people. And he was so full of himself. I do this for a living. I'm one of the best in the world. And he was wrong. We all screamed. It was hilarious.
I know it. What about you? What's occurring?
What's occurring? Keep showing up. Like I said last week, just run, rest, eat, repeat. Cross-country volunteering on Saturday, sorry. I hope it's Saturday. I'll double check my days. It will be Saturday. Cross-country is always Saturday. And I should have been running too, but I faffed and just missed my chance to enter. So yeah, deadline's passed, gutted, but I can still show up and volunteer, which we all know is the next best thing. Looking forward to that. But yeah, this cross country would have been really brutal. 8 miles across country.
8 miles.
Yeah. So I thought that was such a great. I wouldn't really go much faster, to be honest, but I never really raced them. It's a good excuse, because if you're struggling to motivate yourself to do a workout, chuck yourself into a little
workout. Yeah, 8 miles hard over cross country. You got your tired after that marathon. Oh.
And I like it because you're all with this cross country, everyone starts together, so it's the big mass start, or all the men start together. It's not like staggered, you get your fast, medium, and slow packs for regular cross country. So I'll miss the race, but I will be there volunteering. Looking forward to that. I just hope the weather's not horrendous. Last time Sedgefield hosted the cross country, it went down in cross country folklore. The snow was absolutely crazy. And then just looking at my gym routine, I will do that. I'll have a look at that ball. The problem with my gym is where I go, sometimes when I turn up there's a class in where all the ball and that mobility stuff would be, so I don't really want to go in there. So I'll have a look at a few other core exercises I could incorporate. I don't want to increase the time I'm in the gym, so maybe I'll just swap something out. But like you said, when I'm doing my reverse lunges or deadlifts or squats or anything like that, you are engaging your core, unless you go into a machine, I suppose, and isolate stuff. But that is that for us. More Traitors. We're watching Percy Jackson's over on Disney too. We've got a few little programs that we're rotating, depends on who's downstairs.
By the YouTube England football training camps, they are.
My YouTube content currently is, because I'm doing lots and lots of reviews. So one of the things I always say on YouTube is look what your peers do. So I find myself watching lots of other people's reviews just so I don't make any howling mistakes. That's it. Another show in the bank. Thanks for staying to the bitter end, and thanks to Precision Fuel and Hydration for sponsoring this week's show. 100% worth popping over to precisionhydration.com. And we mentioned at the beginning of the show, but the Knowledge Hub and case studies are well worth checking out. And don't forget, you can book your free 20-minute chat with one of their sports scientists too. Use the code T24 for 15% off your first order. And thanks to our partners and patrons too. We couldn't do this without you and your ongoing support. Be kind to your future self. Breathe and believe, and progress, not perfection. And don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and give us a share.
Whatever you're doing right now, just keep going. You got this. Keep sharing your pics. Keep wild weeing. I did the best wild wee in Chamonix under Mont Blanc in a car park. I was so desperate. I was like, the jeopardy was so high that I was like, I'm going to do this. Mont Blanc, only Mont Blanc saw me. Loved it. Keep this UK's #1 not award-winning trail running podcast. warm myself up. Hey, Gary, quick confession as I read the conclusion. I've taken to Yorkshire tea decaffeinated like a duck to water. I had to, they didn't have any PG tips decaffeinated, so I had to get
The boardroom of PG tips will be raging, Eddie.
Well, frankly, that ship may have sailed because now I'm on the Yorkshire tea decaffeinated. It's, if you're looking for decaffeinated tea, it's just a wee bit stronger than the PG tips.
You've changed, Eddie.
You could tell, couldn't you? I just thought I had to go. Anyway, hopefully I'm here next week and not being fired. My name is Ed.
And I've had a few wild wees too. My name is, well, as a man who's 50-year-old, sometimes I do a wild wee, and then when I put the bits and bobs, the dragon back in the pants, I do a little bit of wee that I didn't that I thought I'd finished with.
I actually came face to face with a man, well, like total aubergine close up emoji in my face the other day. I was like, I can actually see the bits, the saggy bits. Just turn away to the tree. You can see me coming.
Oh my goodness,
anyway, what's your name? What you doing?
What's my name? My name is Gary Thwitz.
And that was episode 56 of the Tea and Trails podcast.